Nature is described in the Vedas as originating in symbols. The term used to describe these symbols is called Shabda Brahman, which means eternal sound. And this is actually the inspiration for the title of the podcast because we call it Shabda Podcast. So, this eternal sound is comprised of alphabets and their vibrations. These alphabets comprise material objects, which atomic theory describes as standing waves, which have two components, forward and backward. Vedic philosophy is saying that there's a natural language in which matter encodes meaning, and perception is like reading a text by which we decode the meanings from matter. The difference in everyday reading and perception is that in everyday reading, we use knowledge of grammar and dictionaries to understand meanings. But when nature itself is linguistic, then our senses are also linguistic. For example, our sense of sight is a symbol whose meaning is seeing. The seeing is further divided in our senses through other properties such as color, shape, distance, etc. These properties are called tanmatra in Sankhya philosophy. So the seeing symbol attaches to the color symbol, and the two symbols in combination become the meaning seeing color. Then, when the senses interact with the material world, which is an objective encoding of red, green, blue colors, that the seeing color symbol is enhanced into a new symbol, which means seeing color red. So, in this way, the symbols are attaching to each other to create more complex propositions. And the senses are part of these propositions. In the symbolic construction, seeing is called the indriya or the sense, the color is called tanmatra or property, and the red is the external object. So we have to understand the symbols are not just material things which encode redness, nor are symbols simply existing in the external world. Rather, even our mind and body are symbolic. Some of these symbols have the meaning called red, other symbols have a meaning called color, and there are symbols whose meaning is seeing. All these symbols are atomic objects, which means that our senses are atomic. Properties in terms of which we observe through the senses are atomic. Even the mind is atomic. Atomic, in the original sense of the word, atomos in Greek, Old Greek, actually means indivisible. So, this is a very general sense in which atomism is used in Vedic philosophy. All these atoms are organized so and the attaching constructions, and our experience is actually these propositions. So based on this hierarchy, we can distinguish between the atoms and the connections between them. Space is nothing other than these connections or linkages between the atoms. So atoms are like points in space, and linkages or connections between atoms is like distance between the points. So this distance or linkage between symbols is also called prana in Sankhya. You might have heard of this word. Prana is like a force field, which is in which the symbol particles are embedded. Just like in modern science, we have atomic objects which interact with other particles through a force field. Like that, in Vedic philosophy, the atomic objects are replaced by symbols, and the force field is replaced by prana. And this prana actually operates under the control of conscious choice. It's not a mechanical force, uh, but it is a force nevertheless. So by prana, we can choose to join our senses to the external world in the process of trying to know the world. Now, when the body dies, the prana or the force field leaves the body, which means that all the atoms are still present, but the connections between these atoms begin to break down. This deterioration of the body is understood as, decay after death. But it is not just chemistry laws which are responsible for this deterioration. It is rather prana, which is previously joining the atoms, and now it has left the body. So the energy gradually leaks out, and the connections between the atoms are broken down. That's how the body deteriorates from a living thing to a non living thing. Therefore, this prana is also called life force. It's a key difference between a living body and a dead body. So, from a spiritual perspective, the soul has left the body, but from a material perspective, the prana has left the body. In essence, we are talking about a new theory of atomic particles, how these particles are connected by forces. This makes the discussion of meaning not just a philosophical topic debated for centuries in the past, but something that's squarely in the realm of physics. It's just not traditional physics, it is a new kind of physics in which atoms are symbols and forces are connections between the symbols.